You were taught that wealth is complicated for a reason, not because it actually is, but because if it were obvious, too many people would escape. Complexity is a gatekeeping tool. When something is framed as difficult, technical, or reserved for special minds, most people voluntarily remove themselves from the competition. They bow out before the game even begins. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that power does not hide behind difficulty, it hides behind misdirection. The rules are simple, but the incentives are disguised. Those who follow the visible rules remain poor. Those who study the invisible rules accumulate power quietly. The first mistake you make is assuming you are playing the same game as everyone else. You're not. You're playing the game of obedience, while wealth is built in the game of positioning. These two games look similar on the surface, but their outcomes are completely different. The obedience game rewards effort, loyalty, and compliance. It promises stability in exchange for submission. It tells you that if you work hard, behave well, and wait patiently, you will be rewarded. This game produces workers, not owners. It creates people who are useful, but never free. The positioning game operates under different laws. It rewards leverage, timing, and asymmetry. It does not care how hard you work. It cares where you stand. It does not reward loyalty. It rewards control. Machiavelli warned that those who rely on virtue without power will always be crushed by those who understand reality as it is, not as it should be. You are poor not because you lack discipline, intelligence, or ambition. You are poor because you were trained to maximize effort instead of advantage. You were trained to compete where the odds are worst and discouraged from noticing the arenas where the odds are unfairly tilted. Wealth is not built by running faster inside the maze. It is built by owning the maze. The first rule of the real game is this: money flows towards control, not contribution. This is the hardest truth for morally conditioned minds to accept. You are told that value equals contribution, that if you add value, the market will reward you. This is half true at best. The market rewards control over value, not value itself. The man who controls distribution earns more than the man who creates the product. The man who owns the platform earns more than the man who works inside it. The man who sets prices earns more than the man who accepts them. Machiavelli understood that power always sits one level above labor. Princes did not farm, they controlled land. They did not fight every battle, they controlled armies. They did not produce goods, they controlled trade routes. If your income depends entirely on your continued physical or mental presence, you are not playing the wealth game. You are playing the survival game. Survival feels noble, it feels honest, it feels exhausting, and it keeps you trapped. The second rule is that wealth is built through asymmetry, not balance. You are taught to seek stability, fairness, and predictability. These qualities are comforting, but they do not produce wealth. They produce stagnation. Asymmetry means you risk little to gain a lot. It means your downside is capped, but your upside is open-ended. Jobs are symmetrical traps. You trade fixed effort for fixed pay. Your upside is capped by someone else's decision. Your downside is total. Ownership creates asymmetry. Systems create asymmetry. Media creates asymmetry. Code creates asymmetry. One action multiplied across time and scale produces disproportionate returns. This is why the wealthy obsess over assets instead of effort. Machiavelli warned against mercenary labor, work that only exists while you are present. He favored structures that continued operating without constant supervision. Wealth is the residue of systems that outlive your daily input. The third rule is visibility is not power, control is. Poor people chase recognition. Rich people chase insulation. The moment you need to be seen, you are exposed. The moment you are exposed, you are priced, judged, and replaceable.
Machiavelli advised rulers to appear strong but remain distant. Access was controlled, mystery was preserved. Familiarity breeds contempt, and contempt kills leverage. Modern wealth follows the same law. Oversharing, constant availability, and emotional transparency destroy negotiating power. When people know your desperation, your needs, your deadlines, they own you. The man who can walk away controls the table. The man who needs the deal loses before negotiations begin. The fourth rule is money follows pain, not passion. Passion is a luxury belief. It is promoted to keep you busy doing what feels meaningful instead of what is strategically valuable. Pain is where urgency lives. Urgency creates budgets. Budgets create cash flow. The wealthy do not ask what excites them. They ask what problems people cannot ignore. Machiavelli observed that people will sacrifice morals, loyalty, and even safety to escape pain. Those who position themselves between pain and relief control the exchange. If you are broke, it is because you are solving problems that are optional, cheap, or sentimental. Wealth flows towards problems that are expensive, time-sensitive, and emotionally loaded. The fifth rule is morality is not the same as effectiveness. This is where most people stop listening. They confuse ethics with outcome. Machiavelli never argued for cruelty. He argued for realism. If your moral code prevents you from negotiating aggressively, enforcing boundaries, charging appropriately, or cutting unproductive relationships, your morality is working against you. The wealthy are not evil. They are indifferent to narratives that do not serve results. They act decisively. They say no without guilt. They protect their interests without apology. Being nice is expensive. You pay for it in lost opportunities, underpricing, and emotional manipulation. The market does not reward politeness. It rewards competence backed by leverage. The sixth rule is that wealth requires subtraction before multiplication. You do not need more ideas. You need fewer distractions. The poor collect stimulation. The wealthy eliminate noise. Machiavelli purged courts before expanding empires. You must purge habits, people, and obligations that drain focus. If something does not increase your leverage, it is a liability. Time wasted on low-value activity is theft from your future self. Attention scattered across meaningless inputs weakens decision-making. Focus is not optional. It is the currency of power. The seventh rule is money stays with those who defend it. Getting rich without learning retention is a trap. The system is designed to reclaim wealth through lifestyle inflation, social pressure, and emotional spending. Machiavelli warned that power gained without defense is power lost. Wealth requires fortification. Legal structures, disciplined spending, delayed gratification, and silence are part of the game. True wealth is not consumption, it is optionality. It is the ability to choose without financial consequence. The loudest spenders are usually the most fragile. The eighth rule is time is the final leverage. The wealthy do not save time, they buy it. They outsource low-value tasks, they automate decisions, they eliminate friction. If you are performing tasks that can be done cheaply by others, you are misallocating your life. Machiavelli understood delegation as survival. A ruler who does everything himself collapses. Time reclaimed is intelligence multiplied. The ninth rule is hope is not a strategy. Hope is for those who wait. Strategy is for those who act. Machiavelli despised reliance on fortune without preparation. If your plan depends on luck, approval, or rescue, it is not a plan. Wealth is built through boring repetition applied with discipline over time. No miracles, no shortcuts, no fantasies. The 10th and final rule is wealth isolates before it liberates. This is the price no one advertises. When you stop playing the obedience game, you lose companions. When you stop pretending, you become uncomfortable to those invested in illusions. Machiavelli wrote in exile. He lost status before gaining immortality. Wealth follows the same pattern. First isolation, then independence, then freedom. Most people choose belonging over sovereignty. That is why they remain poor. You are not playing the wrong game because you are incapable. You are playing the wrong game because you were trained to. The moment you switch games, the rules change instantly. Money stops feeling mysterious. Power stops feeling unfair. Wealth becomes predictable. The question is not whether you can win. The question is whether you are willing to leave the table where everyone else is applauding effort and sit alone while you build leverage. If this unsettled you, good, it means the conditioning is breaking. If it clarified something you have felt for years but never articulated, that's your signal. Like this video if you are done playing the obedience game.
Once you understand that wealth is about leverage, not labor, a deeper realization follows. Most people never actually compete, they participate. Participation feels productive, it feels honest, it feels safe, but it is not competitive. It is ornamental. The system rewards those who structure outcomes, not those who merely show up inside them. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He observed that rulers who relied on tradition, goodwill, or moral legitimacy were always overtaken by those who understood force, timing, and perception. The same applies to money. If your financial survival depends on fairness, consistency, or promises, you are exposed. Wealth belongs to those who build positions that do not require mercy from others. This brings us to the 11th principle, though it is rarely stated openly. Wealth is anti-democratic, not politically, but structurally. Money concentrates where advantage compounds. The idea that everyone can win equally is comforting, but false. Markets are not designed for equality, they are designed for extraction and consolidation. Machiavelli warned that power gravitates toward the few because the many seek comfort, while the few tolerate discomfort. Most people want predictable income, predictable routines, and predictable identities. Those who accumulate wealth accept volatility early so they can control stability later. If you want wealth, you must accept imbalance in your life, periods of extreme focus, periods of social absence, periods of risk where the outcome is uncertain. The poor seek balance at all times and remain average forever. The wealthy tolerate imbalance strategically and correct later. The 12th principle is wealth rewards decisiveness, not certainty. This is a critical psychological barrier. You were taught to wait until you are ready, until you are confident, until the path is clear. But certainty is the enemy of action. It never arrives before movement. It only arrives after momentum. Machiavelli noted that fortune favors those who act boldly, not those who hesitate waiting for perfect conditions. The wealthy move with incomplete information. They test, they adjust, they cut losses quickly. They do not emotionally attach to plans. If you wait to feel ready, you will never begin. If you require clarity before movement, others will move first and define the terrain. Wealth belongs to those who enter early, not those who analyze longest. The 13th principle is money follows coordination, not brilliance. Intelligence alone does not produce wealth. Execution through coordination does. Many intelligent people remain poor because they act alone. They are solitary thinkers in a world that rewards organized force. Machiavelli emphasized alliances over individual strength. Even the strongest prince fell without loyal structures beneath him. In modern terms, wealth is created when skills, systems, and distribution are aligned, not when one person tries to master everything. This does not mean trusting everyone. It means designing roles, incentives, and boundaries so that cooperation benefits you regardless of loyalty. The wealthy do not rely on goodwill, they rely on structure.
The 14th principle is money ignores intentions. The market does not care what you meant to do. It does not care how hard you tried. It does not care if your failure was justified. Outcomes are the only currency. This is emotionally difficult for people raised to value fairness, but fairness is irrelevant to accumulation. Machiavelli rejected intention-based judgment in favor of results-based reality. A prince who intended peace but caused chaos was still a failure. If your actions do not produce income, leverage, or assets, they are irrelevant to wealth. You must detach your ego from effort and attach it to outcome. This is uncomfortable, but necessary. The 15th principle is money punishes emotional transparency. The more emotionally visible you are, the easier you are to manipulate. Desperation lowers price. Guilt weakens negotiation. Excitement reveals leverage. Machiavelli advised rulers to mask emotions publicly and express them privately. The same rule applies financially. The market is adversarial by nature. Every negotiation has a winner and a loser. If your emotions are visible, you are already compromised. This does not mean being inauthentic. It means being disciplined. There is a difference. The 16th principle is rich people do not explain themselves. Explanation is a sign of dependence. Those who explain seek permission. Those who act assume authority. If you feel compelled to justify your pricing, your ambition, your boundaries, or your absence, you are still playing the obedience game. The wealthy explain outcomes, not intentions. They present results, not narratives. Machiavelli warned that rulers who explained too much invited challenge. Silence creates gravity. Ambiguity creates power. Those who cannot be easily read cannot be easily opposed. The 17th principle is wealth accelerates when identity detaches from income. Poor people are emotionally fused with their earnings. A bad month feels like a personal failure. A good month feels like validation. The wealthy separate self-worth from cash flow. This allows them to make unemotional decisions. They can cut losses without shame. They can pivot without identity collapse. They can take calculated risks without panic. Machiavelli understood that rulers who identified too closely with one role became fragile. When that role was threatened, so was their authority. Wealth requires psychological flexibility. The 18th principle is the market rewards those who can endure boredom. This is rarely discussed but critical. Wealth is built through repetition, not excitement. Systems require maintenance. Assets compound slowly. Discipline is boring. Most people chase stimulation. They abandon strategies before compounding begins. They mistake boredom for failure. The wealthy remain consistent long after novelty fades. Machiavelli admired endurance, not passion, not inspiration. Known outcomes reward those who stay while others leave. The 19th principle is wealth requires social friction. If everyone approves of your choices, you are not doing anything valuable. Accumulation requires saying no. It requires ignoring advice from those without results. It requires becoming inconvenient. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be willing to be hated if necessary. Modern wealth requires the same. You will be misunderstood. You will be judged. You will be labeled obsessed, greedy, or unrealistic. Those labels are not warnings. They are confirmation. The 20th principle is money is not the goal. Autonomy is. This is the final trap. Those who chase money directly often lose perspective. They accumulate without purpose. They consume without freedom. True wealth is not spending power, it is decision power, the ability to choose how your time is used, the ability to exit environments that no longer serve you, the ability to refuse without consequence. Machiavelli believed power existed to secure independence, not indulgence. Wealth is a tool, not an identity. Once you see the game clearly, getting rich stops feeling mysterious. It becomes mechanical, predictable, cold, and achievable. The only remaining question is whether you are willing to abandon the comfort of the obedience game, whether you are willing to be misunderstood long enough to build leverage, whether you are willing to delay validation in exchange for control. Most are not, which is why wealth concentrates, and which is why, if you are still listening, you are already ahead. The question is whether you are willing to leave the table where everyone else is applauding effort and sit alone while you build leverage. If this unsettled you, good, it means the conditioning is breaking. If it clarified something you have felt for years but never articulated, that's your signal. Like this video if you are done playing the obedience game. Share it with someone still trapped in effort without leverage. Comment which rule forced you to rethink your strategy. And subscribe, because this channel is not about motivation, comfort, or hope. It is about control.